The sound I remember most is the click. Not yelling, not gasps, just a clean, small click, like closing a tab you do not need anymore. I was standing at the end of the table with the remote in my hand, my thumb still warm from pressing through slides I had rehearsed 100 times. The screen behind me showed the dashboard. Red flags, green paths, the thing I had built piece by piece until it finally made sense. The CEO leaned back in her chair. She did not look at me. She looked at the screen like it had personally offended her. "This is your finished product." I opened my mouth. I had an answer ready. I had 3. I had charts, timelines, test results. I did not get to use any of them. She started talking. Words like incomplete, unscalable, embarrassing. She said them casually, like she was reading weather updates. A few people shifted in their seats. Someone tapped a pen too fast. The room smelled faintly like burned coffee and printer toner. Then she leaned forward. Her hand went to the keyboard. Not mine. Hers. I remember thinking, for a split second, that she was going to close the file or pull up notes. Something normal, something professional. The cursor moved, one box highlighted, then another. Click. The screen went blank. She did not raise her voice when she said it. That part hurt more than if she had screamed. Start over. Or get out. That was it. No discussion. No vote. No pause to let it land. I stood there with the remote still in my hand, suddenly aware of how stupid that looked. I set it down slowly, like any fast movement might make this worse. My ears felt hot. My face probably did too. I could not tell. No one said my name. No one said anything at all. My name is Zara Whitcomb, 42 years old. I'd spent years building that system. Nights, weekends, the quiet parts of my life where no one was watching. All of it reduced to a blank screen and a sentence that sounded like a suggestion but felt like a verdict. She turned her attention to the next item on the agenda as if I had already left the room. I was still standing there when I realized I probably should not be. I didn't argue. My own silence was the first thing that caught me off guard. I gathered my things in a room that suddenly felt too small. The chair legs shrieked against the linoleum. The CEO didn't look up, her gaze already fixed on the next person she intended to diminish. "Zara," she muttered. "We're done here." I nodded like that meant something and walked out. In the hallway, Mark from compliance leaned against the wall pretending to read his phone. "That was rough," he said, not meeting my eyes. I didn't answer. I didn't want him to hear the tremor I was trying to hide. At my desk, I started packing. Fast. Too fast. I knocked over a mug and coffee ran across old meeting notes. It smelled bitter and burnt. Someone laughed near the copier. Not at me. The fact that the world kept turning without a glitch was what actually hurt. "You okay?" Jenna whispered from 2 desks over. "I'm fine," I said. Automatic. Stupid. My phone buzzed with a formal termination notice before I even reached the parking lot. The severance mentioned in the attachment was insulting a price tag on years of my life, but the freedom felt absolute. I was officially an outsider. The CEO's tight smile back there wasn't an invitation to talk. It was a victory lap. I didn't wait for a follow-up. I just left. The elevator doors closed. My hands shook once, then stopped. 3 days of silence followed, the kind of silence that makes you forget what day of the week it is. "Zara," a man said. "Careful, professional. This is Owen Clark from North River Logistics." I almost didn't answer. I almost let it go to voicemail like a coward. "Hi," I said. "What's going on?" There was a pause, papers shuffling. I could picture him in his office, sleeves rolled up, doing math in his head. "Our dashboard flagged a supplier risk this morning." He said, "Same pattern your system warned us about last quarter." My stomach tightened. "Okay, it saved us." He continued. "Again, we rerouted in time. Would have cost us close to $200,000 if we hadn't." I leaned against the counter. My sink was full of dishes I hadn't touched in days. "So why," Owen said, "is your team not responding to update requests?" "My team," I repeated. "You or whoever replaced you." He said. Support went silent. I closed my eyes. There is no replacement. Another pause. This one heavier. You're telling me, he said slowly. The software's still running. But you're not there. That's right. That doesn't make sense. He said, not angry. Confused. The last update reduced our incident exposure by 18%. My board loves this thing. I swallowed. They deleted my files. I said, I hated how small my voice sounded. Not the system. Silence. Then a sharp exhale. So the results are real. He said, but the people in charge don't know how it works. That's one way to put it. He didn't argue. That mattered. Listen, Owen said, we don't care who owns the building. We care who understands the machine. I felt something shift. Not relief, not joy, just pressure lifting. Slightly. We'll need guidance, he added, whether that's you or someone else. I looked at the blank wall in front of me, the faint hum of my refrigerator. Proof that things still functioned. Even when ignored. I can't help you right now, I said, but you should know it's still doing exactly what I designed it to do. I figured, he said, that's why I called you after we hung up. I didn't move for a long time. She had erased my work from a server. She hadn't erased what it did in the real world. The lawyer didn't sugarcoat anything. I appreciated her bluntness. You can't take code, she said, tapping the table. You can't take documents. You can't call their clients first. And you definitely can't reuse anything you built on their time. I built it. I snapped. The words were out before I could check them. You built it there, she replied, her voice remaining calm. That's the part that sticks. I nodded, my leg bouncing a nervous rhythm under the table. She slid a yellow pad toward me. You can build something new. From memory. From experience. You can answer calls if they come to you. You can talk about outcomes. Just don't cross the line. What happens if I do? I asked. Her eyes stayed on mine. Unblinking. You lose credibility. You lose leverage. And you hand them the very weapon they need to bury you. I left her office with a headache and a list of rules that felt like handcuffs. That night, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I heard what happened. A man said, casual. Too casual. Name's Victor. I work with teams in transition. Transition to what I asked. Winning. He said, I can help you move fast. I know where your backups are. Old branches. Stuff no one will notice. I pictured the blank screen. The click. Her smile. That's stealing. I said, it's reclaiming. He corrected. You're owed. I didn't answer right away. I hated that part of myself, the part that wanted to say yes just to get even. What do you want? I asked. A percentage, he said. And silence. My stomach tightened. This was the shortcut. The one that would work, but also the one that would poison everything I built after. I don't need it, I said. He laughed. Everyone says that before they lose. I already lost. I replied, I'm not losing my soul, too. He hung up without another word. I sat there for a while, staring at my hands. They were perfectly steady, a cold, quiet stillness I hadn't expected. I didn't feel brave. I just felt careful. I signed the lease the same day my savings dipped below what felt safe, month to month. No windows. The guy handing me the keys didn't ask what I did. His indifference was the first thing that had felt like a kindness in weeks. The room hummed with an old air unit that rattled constantly. It got on my nerves until I eventually learned to breathe in sync with it. I opened a blank file. It stared back, cold and demanding. No backups, no stolen branches, just me and the logic still burned into my brain. A week in, I ran into Jenna at a coffee place. You look tired, she said. I'm building, I replied. She nodded, though her eyes were pitying. They're telling everyone the system couldn't scale, that you hit a wall. I laughed. A sharp, dry sound. They didn't hit a wall. Jenna. They hit their own ceiling. She didn't argue. And for once, I didn't need her to. By day 10, my eyes burned. By day 15, my hands shook whenever the caffeine wore off. I kept telling myself I'd gone through worse. Even if I knew it was a lie. Night 23 was the worst. I thought I had it. The logic lined up. The simulations ran clean. I sat back, waiting for a surge of pride. Nothing came. I reread the output and found it the flaw. Small, ugly, the kind of mistake that hides in the shadows until it costs a client millions. I hovered over the keyboard. My finger stayed over the same key she had pressed. Delete. I hit it myself this time. My chest ached as the screen went white. I sat on the floor, back against the cold wall, counting breaths until the world stopped spinning. I loathed how much this still hurt. And I loathed even more that I refused to let a good enough version survive. By night 30, the code finally stopped fighting me. It was slower, cleaner, meaner. I hit enter and watched the ghost of my career turn into something real. The call came when I was halfway convinced I'd built something only I would ever see. Zara, the man said. This is Paul Hendricks. We were referred by North River. My back straightened. I didn't sit down. I don't have a sales deck, I said. And I'm not offering guarantees. He laughed once. Nervous? Good. We're not asking for miracles. We're asking for a trial. We met the next morning. Paul brought his operations lead, a woman named Elise who didn't smile until she meant it. Your system flagged a routing risk our current software missed. Elise said, that matters. It's early. I said, there will be gaps. Paul slid a thin contract across the table. 3 months. Limited scope. We pay you $40,000. I stared at the number. It was barely rent and groceries stretched thin. It was also everything. If this fails. He continued, we walk. No extensions. No blame. I nodded. Fair. Elise leaned forward. If it works, then you'll know, I said. And so will I. They exchanged a look. Power shifting. Just a notch. Why take this deal? Paul asked. You could hold out. I almost laughed. I don't need money right now. I said, I need proof. He didn't push. That was the moment I trusted him. We shook hands. His palm was sweaty. Mine wasn't. That surprised me. The first week was quiet. Too quiet. I checked logs every hour, slept in bursts, waiting for the call that said I'd missed something obvious. Instead, Elise called on day 9. We caught a vendor exposure early, she said. Not catastrophic, but enough to matter. I closed my eyes. Did you adjust in time? Yes, she said. Then softer. We did because of you. After the call, I didn't celebrate. I just sat there, breathing, letting the moment exist without trying to own it. It wasn't a win yet, but it was a yes. The second month changed the tone. Elise called less often, not because things were failing, but because the silence meant the system was working. We're seeing fewer alerts, she said one morning. I was worried we were missing something. And I asked, exposure is down by 11%, she replied, a smile evident in her voice. Our insurer noticed. They're offering us a premium reduction. 6 figures. Zara, annual. I didn't write the number down. I didn't have to. It was already etched into the foundation of my new life. Proof didn't need a notepad. It needed a ledger. Word spread sideways. I didn't pitch. I just answered the phone. A procurement lead told me. North River says you don't oversell. A risk officer noted that I talked like someone who had already cleaned up the messes they were currently fearing. Then Mark from compliance texted me. You hearing anything about Atlas? I stared at the screen. My old company. I waited 10 minutes before typing back. I've been busy. Mark. Why they lost 2 logistics accounts last week. He added. Both cited directional concerns. Code for they don't know where the ship is heading without a map. That afternoon, a former colleague called from a private number. She's asking who built the original logic. He whispered, like she's trying to convince herself she didn't watch you delete it. I didn't forget. I said, they're scrambling. Zara, trying to reverse engineer your judgment. You can't reverse engineer experience. I said, the edge in my voice sharper than I intended. By the end of the quarter, Paul slid a revised agreement across the table. We want to expand, he said, and we want exclusivity. For how long? Long enough to make them regret letting you walk. Power moved again. It didn't arrive with a shout. It settled in the room like gravity, quiet and unyielding. That night, I walked back to my office and shut the door. The air unit rattled the same broken rhythm as the first day, but the sound no longer felt like a warning. It felt like a heartbeat. I hadn't aimed for revenge. I'd aimed at the work. Turns out the work had a memory of its own. The number came up as unknown. I let it ring once, twice. On the third, I answered, Zara Whitcomb. I said, Zara, a man replied. His voice was sandpaper and silk, the kind of calm that only comes with immense liquidity. This is Daniel Rice. I represent a group of institutional investors. I didn't sit. I never do for calls where the stakes have commas. We've been following your pilot, he said, and your expansion. You mean my one client? I countered. He chuckled. We mean your impact. There's a difference. I waited. Silence is a weapon in a negotiation. And I let it hang until it became uncomfortable for him. We're interested in acquiring your platform. He said, full buyout. I'm not selling. I said, the refusal was instinctive. A reflex to protect the only thing I had left. That's not what I expected. He replied, sounding more curious than offended. Because that's not the real reason I'm calling. My grip tightened on the phone. Your former employer. Daniel continued. Is in trouble. Client attrition. Leadership friction. Declining market confidence. The board is looking for an exit. I said nothing. We're preparing an offer for a full acquisition of Atlas, he said, and we'd like to discuss your role after the merger. My role? Yes. We want you to run the entire operation. The words hit like a physical weight, heavy, like a door opening to a room I thought I'd burned down. I'm not looking for a vendetta, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Revenge is expensive. Zara. Daniel replied, we're looking for a return on investment, and you are the only one who can deliver it because you're the only one who truly understands the engine. They erased my work, I reminded him. My voice stayed even, anchored by a cold clarity I hadn't known I possessed. They erased files, he said. Not results. I heard my own line echoed back. A grim smile touched my lips. He had done his homework. You'd have total control. He continued. Technical direction, staffing, product authority. And the current CEO I asked, I wasn't looking for a scalp. I was looking for a clear path. A pause, brief, professional. That'll be handled. We don't invest in friction. I closed my eyes. I saw the blank screen again. The click. The way she'd said my name like a death sentence. I don't know if going back would fix anything. I said, it wouldn't. Daniel replied, it would rewrite it. I asked about numbers. He gave them. They were real, more than I'd ever planned for. Enough to end the scramble. Enough to ensure no one could ever click me out of existence again. I need time. I said, of course. He replied, we're patient, but the market isn't. After we hung up, I didn't move. My phone felt heavier than it should. A piece of glass and metal that just changed the gravity of my world. I'd built something clean, something mine. And now the place that broke me wanted me back. Not apologizing, not begging, just handing me the keys to the kingdom they couldn't rule without me. The paperwork took weeks. Lawyers, signatures, quiet rooms where no one raised their voice. That was the part people never imagine. Power doesn't arrive with noise. It shows up with initials on the right lines. Daniel called first. It's done. He said, you're in. I didn't celebrate. I asked when I'd need to be there. Today? He said, if you want, I wanted. The former CEO was already in the conference room when I walked in. Same posture, same calm, different air. She stood. Zara, I didn't offer my hand. I didn't need to. You didn't come back to gloat. She said, not a question, an observation. No, I said, I came back because this place can do better than it did. Her jaw tightened. You think I didn't want results? I think you wanted control more? I said, it wasn't cruel. It was accurate. She looked down at the table, then back up. You could have burned us. I said, but that would have burned me too. Silence stretched. Not hostile. Final. I won't be staying, she said. I know, I replied. When she left, nothing dramatic happened. No applause, no relief, just space. Daniel slid a folder toward me. Your authority is full. Technical direction. Hiring. Product decisions. I opened it, then closed it again. I'm not here to erase people. I said, I'm here to build things that don't need permission to work. He smiled. That's why we chose you. Later, alone in the office that used to feel like a trap. I sat at the desk and breathed. The hum was still there. Same sound, new meaning. I didn't win by tearing someone down. I won by not becoming who I was pushed to be. Standing in that familiar glass office, I realized victory wasn't about the title on the door. It was about the integrity of the machine I'd built. They could delete the files, but they couldn't execute the vision without the architect. If this story hit something familiar, talk about it. Share it. Argue with it. I'm still figuring parts of it out myself. Is true victory defeating someone or becoming someone they never expected? Whatever you think, say it out loud. That's how the next part starts.